You ever have that feeling? That sudden chill in your bones, even when everything seems warm and perfect? That was me. My name is Elena, and until a few months ago, I thought I had it all. I was 33, married to a man who seemed like something out of a dream. David, charming, successful, the kind of man who made other women turn their heads in restaurants. We'd been married for 6 years. 6 good years, or so I believed. We lived in a beautifully restored townhouse in Chicago, the kind with crown molding and brick walls that told stories. I was a marketing consultant working remotely for boutique brands. David was a financial advisor running his own firm. We made a good team on the outside. We had a routine, a life built on rituals. Saturday morning brunch at the same cafe on Armitage. Thursday wine nights with his colleagues. Sunday drives to nowhere in particular. I had convinced myself this was happiness. That this quiet, curated life was love. But here's the thing about routines. They're only comforting until they start feeling scripted. I remember the day it started unraveling. A normal Tuesday. David had just left for work. I was sipping my coffee, glancing at my emails when I got a text from a number I didn't recognize. It was a photo, a blurry one, taken from a distance. David, at a restaurant, with another woman. Her hand was on his. They were laughing. The timestamp? Last Thursday night. My first reaction wasn't rage. It wasn't even sadness. It was confusion, because Thursday nights were sacred. We hosted wine nights, his idea in fact. Except last Thursday, he told me last minute it was canceled. Everyone bailed, he said, going to hit the gym instead. I had believed him. I stared at the photo for a full minute, my stomach flipping like I was on a roller coaster I never meant to board. Then another message came through. You don't know the man you married. No name, no context, just that sentence. That night, I didn't confront him. I watched him instead. He walked in as always, keys jangling, setting down his briefcase, kissing my cheek like nothing happened. He smelled like cedar and whiskey. He always did. But now, I noticed how long he lingered in the mirror, how often he checked his phone under the table, how he suddenly needed space more often than usual. For days, I spiraled. I didn't sleep. I didn't eat much. I went through everything, his texts, his emails, his social media. Nothing. He was careful. Too careful. I started to doubt myself. Was I being paranoid? Could it be some kind of prank? Then came the slip-up. He left his Apple Watch on the nightstand one morning when he rushed out early. I never touched his stuff, but my hands moved before my brain could stop them. A notification buzzed from someone named M. Last night was perfect. Can't stop thinking about your hands. I felt my legs go numb. I opened the message thread, my fingers trembling. They had been talking for months. Photos, locations, hotel receipts. There were even voicemails. His voice soft, low, intimate. A version of him I hadn't heard in years. I sank to the floor, holding the watch like it burned. And then something inside me broke. Or maybe awakened. I wasn't going to cry. I wasn't going to scream. I was going to ruin him. But to do that, I had to know everything. It's a strange thing, realizing you've been sleeping beside a stranger for 6 years. Once I had the truth, everything began to look different. Our framed wedding photo on the bookshelf? A lie. The necklace he bought me last Christmas? Guilt. The smile he gave me when he said, "I love you"? Rehearsed. I didn't tell anyone. Not my sister, not my best friend, not even my therapist. I needed to move in silence. So I made a plan. Every night, after David fell asleep. I'd slip into the guest room, plug in my old laptop, and become someone else. I opened a private document and titled it Operation Phoenix, because if I was going to burn my life down, I was going to rise from it too. Step 1, the woman. Her name was Marissa. That much I knew from the texts. She was younger, blonde, liked yoga and Pinot Grigio. She called David D. He called her his escape. I almost laughed when I read that. His escape? From what, me? The woman who did his laundry, proofread his quarterly reports, covered for him when he forgot his mother's birthday? I started digging. She had a public Instagram. Too public. A quick reverse search showed me she tagged a location often. Bar Centro downtown. A high-end rooftop place. David had mentioned it once, said it was too loud for his taste. Apparently not when he was with her. I kept watching, and I noticed something else. She only posted on weekends when David told me he was on business trips. The puzzle was solving itself, but what stopped me cold was her latest post. It was a picture of a ring on her finger. Caption, "Can't wait to spend forever with you, D-Ring." I blinked, then blinked again. He proposed? To her? No. This had to be old. I checked the date. Posted 2 days ago. That's when it hit me. This wasn't just an affair. This wasn't just betrayal. David was living 2 lives, 2 houses, 2 careers, 2 fiancés, and me. I was the wife he'd erased. Step 2, the paper trail. I started with our finances. David never let me handle money. He said, "Babe, numbers stress you out." What a joke. What really stressed me out? Finding 2 separate bank accounts he never told me about. One was under a business alias. The other? A joint account with Marissa, labeled under a fake last name. I took screenshots, saved them in a cloud drive with triple password protection. Then I found the real jackpot. A rental lease, downtown loft, signed in his name, but with her listed as an occupant. It was dated from 14 months ago. They'd been living together for over a year. I remember just staring at the screen, unable to move. He used our money, my money. He paid for a second life with the loyalty I gave him. I didn't cry. I opened another spreadsheet and started itemizing every lie. I named the file Demolition Blueprint. Step 3, the mirror. By now, I wasn't even pretending with David. I stopped asking about his day. Stopped reaching for his hand in the car. Stopped laughing at his terrible dad jokes. He noticed, but thought I was just in a funk. "Want to book a spa day?" he asked one night. I smiled and said, "Maybe." Inside, I wanted to scream. But outside, I gave him calm. Because the most dangerous thing a betrayed woman can be is quiet. That weekend, he went to Boston. Translation, Marissa. I tracked him with the Find My iPhone setting he didn't know was still enabled. He was 4.2 miles away, at her apartment, with her ring on her finger. And so I made my next move. I hired a private investigator, a friend of a friend who owed me a favor. Within 72 hours, I had everything. Photos, receipts, audio. David had married Marissa in Nevada 3 weeks ago. He was legally married to both of us. He committed bigamy. I stared at the images of them in a courthouse, smiling, holding hands, like something out of a nightmare. That's when something in me finally snapped. I wasn't going to confront him. I was going to annihilate him. Step 4, the game begins. I called in favors, friends-in-law, contacts from old campaigns. I started quietly building a legal case. Bigamy, financial fraud, identity misrepresentation. Every lie had a consequence, and I was about to collect. but not yet. First, I needed to hurt him where it would actually bleed. His reputation, his money, and her heart. David always said I was too soft, too emotional, too trusting. I let him believe that. For 6 years, I let him think he was the mastermind, the provider, the hero in a story only he authored. But now I was the editor, and I was rewriting the ending. First, the letter. I drafted it carefully, an anonymous envelope addressed to Marissa. Inside, copies of our marriage license, photos from our wedding day, a list of shared bills, accounts, mortgages, and a sweet little message. Dear Marissa, thought you should meet David's first wife. We were married 6 years before your forever started. You may want to get tested. He's been real busy. Love. The real Mrs. D. I sent it through an untraceable courier. Signature required. Delivery confirmed. Then the exposure. David's company held an annual gala, a high-profile affair for board members, investors, and media. He was in charge of the opening speech. I RSVP'd, yes, dressed in black velvet, and walked in like a widow at a murder mystery party. When he saw me, he froze. What are you doing here? He hissed. I smiled, supporting my husband. Isn't that what good wives do? What he didn't know was this. I had already spoken to the head of compliance at his firm. I had emailed them everything, the bigamy, the off-record accounts, the tax inconsistencies I found buried in his business credit card history. David didn't just cheat on me. He defrauded his employer. And tonight, they were going to find out. The mic drop. He walked up on stage with his rehearsed charm. Tonight, we celebrate integrity, partnership, and vision. I stood at the back of the room, holding my wine glass steady, waiting. Halfway through his speech, 2 men in suits approached him, whispered something in his ear. His face turned to ash. Excuse me, he stammered into the mic. Then he was gone. The room buzzed. Confused laughter. Shuffling feet. I simply turned and walked out the door. But I wasn't done. David had a company laptop. He always left it on the kitchen counter when home. And he never changed his password. Because, again, he thought I was soft. On that laptop, I found emails. Hundreds of them. Conversations with women who weren't Marissa either. Some flirty. Some explicit. Some blackmail-worthy. I forwarded them to myself. Every last one. Then deleted the originals. Then mailed printed copies to Marissa again. She needed to know she wasn't even the only other woman. Within 2 weeks, his firm suspended him. His accounts were frozen pending investigation. His new wife blocked him everywhere. And I had full control of our original joint assets. But the cherry on top? He came home, suit wrinkled, eyes red, pride in tatters, and said, Elena, we need to talk. I was sitting on the couch, scrolling Zillow. Oh, about which marriage? He fell to his knees. I messed up. I didn't mean for any of this. I stood, walked over to him, and whispered in his ear, You burned everything down for a fantasy. Now I'll build something new with your ashes. Then I handed him the divorce papers. Filed. Signed. Ready. He cried. I didn't. The day the divorce finalized, I didn't cry. I didn't drink. I didn't even call a friend. I just went home, threw open every window, and let the fresh air in. The house was mine now. Legally, emotionally, spiritually. I lit sage in every room like I was banishing a demon. And maybe in some way, I was. People kept asking me, what now? Are you going to move? Will you date again? How do you feel? And all I could think was, how do I feel? I feel awake. For 6 years, I lived under someone else's rules. his routines, his moods, his deception disguised as devotion. Now, now I could breathe, but peace is never quiet at first. The scandal made waves, his firing, the financial investigation, his second wife vanishing from social media overnight. Even though I never went public, people started piecing things together. An anonymous Reddit post popped up one day on a cheating horror forum. My husband had a whole other life. I'm the second wife. His first wife just burned his kingdom to the ground. If you're reading this, Elena, thank you. That's when I knew. Marissa got the message. And maybe, just maybe, she found a way out, too. I didn't stop at survival. I rebuilt. Remember that publishing dream? I went back to it. Took the journals, the notes, the red flags I ignored, and turned them into essays. Then a blog. Then a book proposal. My title? Wife Number One, a memoir of love, lies, and liberation. It was raw, honest, angry, but it was also funny. I didn't want to just bleed. I wanted to show how you stitch yourself back up. I got a small book deal within 3 months. The advance? More than David ever gave me in 6 years of anniversaries and apologies combined. And then came something unexpected. Messages. Dozens. Then hundreds. Women from all over writing to say, "Your story gave me the courage to leave. I thought I was crazy until I read your blog. I found the strength to confront my husband after I saw what you did. That was better than revenge. It was redemption." A year later, I stood on a TEDx stage. I wore a fire red suit and said to the crowd, "I thought revenge would taste sweet, but it turns out freedom is sweeter." The best way to burn down a liar's empire is to build a life they could never be part of. Applause, tears in the front row, an email the next day from a film producer asking if the rights were available. I smiled, because the truth was he tried to erase me. But in the end, I became unforgettable. It's funny how healing doesn't always look like peace. Sometimes it looks like war. But eventually the dust settles, the wounds close, and what's left is you. Just you. Whole, unapologetic, free. I moved cities. I wanted a clean slate, far from the coffee shops where we used to go, the dry cleaner who knew his name, the restaurant where we'd hosted his firm's dinners while Marissa probably waited for him to come home in another zip code. New apartment, new furniture. I picked everything without a second opinion. Not once did I ask, would he like this? That alone felt revolutionary. My book hit the market and landed fast. Women's forums lit up. Book clubs messaged me. The hashtags started trending. Hashtag wife number one. Hashtag burn the blueprint. Hashtag red flag diaries. People were angry. People were relieved. Because the truth is, my story wasn't rare. It was just finally loud enough to be heard. Then came the interview. A big podcast. Millions of subscribers. They asked me, if he walked in right now and apologized, what would you say? I paused, looked at the mic, and said, you can't apologize for stealing years from someone. You can only pray they learn to reclaim them. That clip went viral, not because I was bitter, but because I wasn't. I didn't want him back. I didn't want revenge. I wanted women to see that survival isn't the end. Reinvention is. 6 months later, I got a letter in the mail. Handwritten. No return address. You destroyed me. I lost everything. Why did you have to go that far? No name signed, but I knew the handwriting. I didn't reply. Instead, I pinned it to my vision board between a photo of Amalfi Coast cliffs and the first royalty check stub I ever got. Because that note? That was proof. Not just that he knew what he'd lost, but that I never needed him in the first place. I don't date much anymore. Not because I'm scared, because I'm full. I've fallen in love with mornings again, with writing in cafes and not wondering who's lying to me behind a screen, with women who come to my readings and say, "You wrote my life." There's a kind of intimacy in being understood, in being believed. And no man ever gave me that the way other women have. I still get emails from readers. One of them wrote recently, "You're the main character of your life. He was just a bad chapter." That's the thing, isn't it? You think love will complete you, but sometimes losing love does that instead. Because you realize you were always the whole story. He was just footnotes. Final lines for this video. This is Elena, and this was my story. If you've ever been lied to, broken, erased, remember, the strongest version of you hasn't even shown up yet. Thank you for watching another episode of Red Flag Diaries. If Elena's story struck a chord, don't forget your voice matters too. Hit that like button, subscribe for more true stories of survival and strength, and turn on the bell so you never miss a chapter. This isn't just storytelling, it's reclaiming power one truth at a time. See you in the next one.